Today, we're talking about one of the most beloved PC games of all time. But this isn't a story about a huge team with a grand vision and a massive budget. Nope, this is the story of an accidental masterpiece. Yeah, you heard that right. RollerCoaster Tycoon, the game that so many of us poured hundreds of hours into, was never even supposed to be made. It was born out of creative burnout, serious technical limitations, and a programmer who just wanted to mess around and have a little fun. And this quote right here, it's from the man himself, Chris Sawyer. You have to picture it. It's the mid-90s. He's supposed to be working on a sequel to his huge hit game, Transport Tycoon. But he's totally stuck. The project just isn't inspiring him, and the computers back then couldn't even handle his big ideas for it. He was hitting a massive creative wall. So, what do you do when your main project grinds to a halt? Well, you start a little side project. And that side project, born from just a simple fascination, was about to change absolutely everything. It was really the perfect storm of conditions. He's bogged down working on Transport Tycoon 2, but at the same time, he's getting completely obsessed with the engineering of real-life roller coasters. He'd played other theme park games and just felt frustrated by how basic and crude their coaster building was. So, he decided to take a break just to have a bit of fun and see if he could do it better. Okay, and this is where the story gets really unique. Sawyer's little fun experiment didn't start with a big design document or some master plan. Not at all. It just grew, organically, one piece of code at a time. And that is the crucial point here. You have to understand, Sawyer wasn't setting out to build a full game. At first, his only goal was to make a sort of digital construction set for roller coasters, just so he could design and test rides. All the rest of it, the guests, the shops, the entire park management aspect, that all grew organically from that one simple, single idea. He called it a bottom-up process. He'd just focus on one single technical challenge, like getting the coaster physics to feel right. Once that was working well, he'd think, okay, what's the next logical step from here? And then he'd build that. Then repeat the process. The game literally assembled itself, feature by feature. This is the power of creative freedom right here, because this wasn't some official project with a publisher breathing down his neck. Sawyer had the liberty to fail. He could spend weeks going down one path, realize it wasn't working, and just scrap it and start over. Those wrong turnings were actually essential for him to find the right path for the game. So the game's taking shape, but how did it get that iconic look and feel we all remember? Well, a lot of those decisions weren't just stylistic choices. They were actually clever solutions to some very, very tough technical problems of the mid-90s. Now get this, Sawyer wrote the entire game in assembly language. To put it simply, that is the most difficult, bare-bones way to code. It's almost like talking directly to the computer's hardware. But it is also the absolute fastest. In an era of slow PCs, it was pretty much the only way he could simulate hundreds of guests, rides, and physics calculations all at once and still get a smooth frame rate. So that was the trade-off. By choosing assembly, he sacrificed ease of use and the ability to easily port the game to other systems. But in return, he got pure, raw speed. Every single piece of the code had to be hyper-efficient, or a busy park would just grind to a halt. Just how efficient was his code? Well, to answer that, let's fast forward more than 2 decades, when the game was being ported to mobile devices. Think about that for a second. A whole team of programmers using modern tools took longer to just translate his work than it took him to create the entire thing from scratch by himself. It's just a staggering testament to the level of optimization and pure skill that went into that original code. That same focus on performance drove the graphical style. Real-time 3D was just starting to pop up, but it was way too slow. So, Sawyer opted for a fixed isometric view using pre-rendered images. This guaranteed a high, stable frame rate, so a technical limitation actually ended up creating the game's timeless, iconic look. And what about the physics? This is my favorite part. He actually coded them realistically at first, but it just didn't feel right. It looked too slow. So he intentionally exaggerated the speed and acceleration. Why? Because it was more fun that way. He chose great gameplay over perfect realism. So the game is finally done. It's built on passion, technical wizardry, and a bit of rule bending. But the big question remained. Would anyone actually buy it? Even Sawyer and his publisher were cautious. They thought the game was good, sure, but they figured it was for a very specific, niche audience of roller coaster nerds. They had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. The game exploded. And what surprised everyone was who was playing. It wasn't just one group, it was everyone. Girls, boys, women, men, people of all ages were getting hooked. The game's appeal was universal in a way no one, and I mean no one, had predicted. And people played in completely different ways. You had the architects, who just love creating these beautiful, pristine parks with perfect flower beds and paths. And then you had the engineers, who were obsessed with building the wildest, most extreme coasters possible, pushing the physics to its absolute limit. The game was deep enough to satisfy both. And this brings us to today. It's been over 25 years. Technology has leaped forward. So why do we still talk about and still play this game? Well, here's the brilliant irony. When the game was released, some critics actually said the graphics looked outdated. But today, that same pixelated isometric style is celebrated for its charm and its character. What was once a technical compromise has now become a beloved aesthetic. So what's the ultimate lesson from this accidental classic? Chris Sawyer himself reflected on it, suggesting that maybe we've all been focused on the wrong things. Maybe hyper-realism and jaw-dropping graphics aren't the be-all and end-all. And that's it. That's the core philosophy that made this game a timeless success. It challenges you, it rewards your creativity, and most importantly, it's just fundamentally fun to play. In the end, the story of RollerCoaster Tycoon isn't just about code and pixels. It's a story about how constraints can actually fuel creativity, and how a singular focus on fun can create something that lasts for generations. It leaves us with a fascinating question. In any art form, what are the core ingredients that make something truly timeless?